Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of What Cause Inspires You. I'm your host, Alicia Gupta, and today I have with me Ishan Goyal. I launched the What Cause Inspires You podcast as a way for students to share the service they are doing in their communities. We encourage youth like Ishan who are making change to improve the world to speak up about their stories and become a leader in the movement. Ishan is the founder and president of Essentials for Homeless, an international student-run nonprofit organization that works to provide access to toiletry items for everyone. As a Humanity Rising ambassador, he is deeply passionate and hopeful about the power of people, especially youth, coming together to make unheard-of differences in their community. Before we start the presentation, I'd advise everyone to set your video on speaker's view so you can see both me and Ishan as we speak about Essentials for Homeless. As Nico mentioned earlier, we are trying a new webinar style for this Zoom. So let us know if you've been to our previous podcasts, if you prefer this style of doing it or the old one where you can see Ishan and I rotate as we speak. All right, we are recording this presentation and we'll post the video on YouTube and Spotify. With that, Ishan, are we ready?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, let's start off with why you decided to speak on this podcast and how you heard of What Cause Inspires You.
Yeah, so I first got in touch with Ms. Ferruzzi last January, and I heard about the amazing Humanity Rising movement. And it's truly a unique organization because it tries to connect a lot of people who are doing a lot of great things. And yeah, there's really nothing like it. And from there, I heard about the podcast opportunity. I was really inspired by a lot of the earlier podcasts, and yeah, I reached out to do my own.
Awesome. Did you watch a few of our previous podcasts? I think I saw you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I watched the first few.
Yeah, I think it's great when all these students who are on our podcast, they then are able to connect and we're really able to make a bigger impact. So could you explain what Essentials for Homeless is and what you do in your organization?
Sure, yeah. So Essentials for Homeless has two major components, but everything is basically based around making sure that everyone has access to the toiletries and hygiene items such as soaps, shampoos, conditioner, and all of that. So we do that through two avenues. So the first one is through hotels. So I actually visited a hotel a while ago. I think this was September of 2018. And I was just curious, and I asked the manager there, what do you do with the toiletries that people leave behind, but they don't even touch, like they don't use at all? And this was a pretty mid-scale hotel. I think it's a Quality Inn. And they said that their corporate simply does not allow them to reuse them. So even if it's untouched, if a guest checks out, they have to throw them away, and that's a complete waste. And that happens multiple times a day across the U.S. in thousands of hotels. So I decided to do something about that, at least on a local scale. And I reached out to quite a few hotels in the Bay Area where I lived near San Francisco. And I asked them about their policies. And a very, very large majority said that, they throw away those toiletries. So I asked some of them if I could facilitate the donation of those toiletries to local homeless shelters. And that's something we've been doing for a while now. We have different high school students who are partnered up with different hotels and different hotel chains, and they basically go to these hotels and they pick up those toiletries every couple of weeks and they donate them so they don't go to waste. So yeah, that's one part. And the second part is what most people do. So our high school ambassadors, they hold hygiene item drives in locations such as schools and locations such as schools and churches, and they have a bin. And they just ask people to come and drop by any travel items that they've not used so that the homeless can take advantage of those.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think we hear about in schools a lot of children who are their schools are collecting items such as like canned goods to send for the homeless shelters. But I think this innovative idea of upcycling resources from the hotels is amazing. So was it the hotel's experience that got you inspired to start Essentials for Homeless, or was it more of a personal experience?
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely that light bulb moment that, hey, there's this entire untapped potential that can really help homeless people. And I've had a couple of other experiences with the underprivileged, and those have really ignited this as well. And and just in general, toiletries and personal hygiene is something that's extremely overlooked. When we think of donations, we often think of food and just money. But I mean, for a person to feel good, they need to look good, and we really help with that. And at a lot of homeless shelters nowadays, there's a big shortage of these toiletry items. A lot of people are donating food and money, but a lot of people just don't think about this cause. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of growing your organization lately, what have you been up to?
Yeah. So it's been a little bit hard in this pandemic time because
Yeah.
just the nature of our drives are, there's a lot of touching of items. Yeah, and that cycle involves a lot of people. So we've scaled back a lot on our operations, but yeah, in this time it's needed more than ever. So we do take monetary donations. That's one way that we've continued our cause. But other than that, it's extremely amazing that it's entirely student led. We're all high schoolers and a few middle schoolers, and yeah, we just start up chapters across the U.S. and across the world, and yeah, I'm really happy that all these kids are making this big of a difference.
Wow, that's amazing. And for a few statistics for the audience here, in January of 2018, 500,000, around a little over, people were counted as homeless in the United States. Of those, around 200,000, which is 35%, were unsheltered, and around 360,000, which is 65%, were sheltered. So how does Essentials for Homeless attempt to provide these necessities for the individuals who are unsheltered or can't get access to a community shelter?
Yeah, for sure. So the distribution process only can happen after you do the drive. So after you do the drive, there's two ways that our chapter heads can distribute them. The major one is going to like a homeless shelter and something like that, and they just give the toiletries there. But recently, we had a chapter head go out to a large park in downtown San Jose. It's called St. James Park, and they just set up a table and they had their huge boxes of all those toiletries, and they just distributed them to people that don't have as much. So that's something that we're definitely looking forward to doing a lot more to reach those people who aren't sheltered. And the thing about sheltered versus unsheltered is that there's a lot of people who only get temporary stays in these homeless shelters, like only a few days at a time out of 30 days of a month. So yeah, a lot of people are rotating in and out, and it's really important to make sure that that for the limited amount of time that people are at the homeless shelters, they have a good experience and that they can get a shower and they can wash their hands.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of factors play into this whole experience to make it go kind of smoothly. So it must take up a lot of time. And as a youth activist, starting a nonprofit takes a lot of dedication. So how are you able to prioritize Essentials for Homeless in your daily life?
Yeah, so one thing that I'm extremely fortunate to have is a lot of great other high schoolers. Like at the beginning, it definitely took a lot of work to reach out to other high schoolers, especially in different parts of the state of California and even in other states. But now, like those same chapter heads are now our ambassadors, and they can call on their families and friends to actually start new chapters and all of that. So now it's more of a coordination role for me. It's I personally am not involved in like personally expanding the organization and reaching out to specific people, but it definitely does take a lot of time. With a lot of people do have questions, and a lot of homeless shelters nitpick a little bit here and there. So dealing with that does take a little bit of time. And yeah, just something I'm definitely passionate about, and it doesn't really feel like work when I
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure. And I heard you were recognized by the Prudential Spirit of Community Award, so that's amazing as
Thank
well.
you.
Big commends. I think this is a perfect opportunity for me to screen share a few of the testimonials, and maybe, Sean, you can talk about it while I do that.
Sure.
All right. Can everyone see my screen there?
Not yet.
Oops. No worries. Why don't I just read out a little bit then? So a few of the testimonials while this is sharing, I'll just read them out. It says, "You give us hope for the future, hopefully one filled with compassion and kindness." And the other one says, "Your parents must be very proud of you. I am happy to donate to your cause and will drop things off as soon as I can." So I think this just goes to speak for all the people who are being impacted by this experience, which is amazing. Can you guys see that now? And there was one more saying, "I absolutely love that you're doing this. I love your spirit. Kudos." So how does this make you feel seeing all these testimonials, Ishan?
Yeah, it's amazing. And it just shows how amazing all of our high schoolers are who are doing all this work, and that people really appreciate it. It's not about volunteering hours or anything. Like we don't like give out volunteering hours. It's more about like the fulfillment that you get. Like, oh, in my community, I was able to impact X number of people and collect X number of toiletries. So yeah, I think the people who join our organization are truly passionate about making a difference and about doing it for the sake of doing so. Yeah.
And that's amazing. But with rewards, there are challenges. So what are some of those challenges that you've actually encountered since starting Essentials for Homeless?
Yeah. So with the hygiene drives, one of the things that's kind of a contentious a little bit is that a lot of people want to donate somewhat used hygiene items, and that's one thing we've thought about a lot. You know, um, because in some cases it just can't be sanitary, but some homeless shelters are like, no, like we can take advantage of that and we can use that. So that's one thing we've dealt a lot with, a quality control, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
But now since we do have like an influx of hygiene items, we're starting to scale back on those and mostly accepting newer and unused items. So that's one thing that's definitely a little bit more challenging.
Awesome. And other than chapters in schools, which are going great right now, where do you see the future of Essentials for Homeless?
Yeah, I think one thing that we really haven't tapped into yet is a lot of these larger organizations, such as clubs. So in a lot of high schools across the country, there's stuff like Key Club and UNICEF, stuff like that, and they're currently doing a lot of independent events, and in some cases, they're even doing hygiene drives. So I think their drives can be even more effective if they use our strategies of using like a website like nextdoor.com to advertise those drives and just getting more people engaged through that.
Yeah, definitely. I think this podcast is definitely one of lots of steps to get more people engaged in your movement. And we hope that everyone takes advantage of this and connects with you, because I think this is a powerful place that the movement's going to go to. So a little bit background on Humanity Rising for our audience. Humanity Rising is a growing nonprofit organization that provides students a chance for scholarships for change that they make in their community. So as a Humanity Rising ambassador myself, I can definitely see Essentials for Homeless aligning with Humanity Rising's beliefs to allow youth to have the power to make change. But Ishan, why do you think Humanity Rising is important, and what message do you have for the other students and our audience today regarding Humanity Rising?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, I got in touch with Debbie, and yeah, in the past year, I've seen a lot of this work is just truly from the heart, and the leaders of Humanity Rising, especially, they do this work just for the sake of the impact that they can make, and they take a lot of advice from the ambassadors. For example, we were thinking about how to best implement our service challenges, and Debbie set up a phone call with myself and a couple of other ambassadors. And it was really great to see how much she values our input. And also just in general, it's not about anything other than the impact that we can make through Humanity Rising.
That's awesome. It's great to hear that from one of our Humanity Rising ambassadors themselves. And if you're ever willing or the audience wants to get engaged more with Community Rising, we will be putting our website down in the chat. Feel free to contact us. There's so many volunteer opportunities, and we love binding together to make a change in this world. So, Ishan, one last question for you. You did mention a lot of people starting chapters, all these students who come to you in your organization to start chapters for Essentials for Homeless. How can others get involved in your organization? And what's your, as we like to call it in Humanity Rising, call to action?
Yeah, so for Essentials for Homeless, as I said a little bit earlier, it's a little bit more difficult to hold tribes at this very moment, but we're definitely looking forward to getting more into that steps later in the year. So I really encourage you to fill out a form on our website, essentialsforhomeless.org, with the number 4. And there's a form on the front page if you want to get involved as a potential chapter head. And the thing about getting involved with the organization is that it's very independent, and you develop a lot of leadership skills. So if you fill out the form, I'll send you an email about the next steps and about how you can hold a drive and partner with a hotel potentially in your area and make a difference.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ishan. And for everyone out there, I did attach that form to our chat, as well as Ishan's email and website in case anyone has further inquiries. This is really inspiring work. So thank you for sharing it with us and for all of our viewers today. I hope in the future we definitely see more youth activists take it upon themselves to create meaningful change just like this. I will be posting my email address in the chat as well if anyone has questions about What Cause Inspires You, as well as the application to apply as a speaker. We love hearing about all the action youth are taking, and it'll be a great opportunity to voice your movement on for a cause. So be sure to follow our Instagram and Facebook pages to also stay updated for our scholarship opportunities, future podcasts, and events. And speaking of future podcasts, next week on July 8th, Wednesday at the same time, I'll be on with sisters Kanchan and Kajal Raju while they discuss the impact of dance on their lives and how they were able to share that impact with the community.